Hi, I'm Becky Sims and welcome to Behind the Future, the podcast from Aspiration Digital. We're here to unlock digital careers, one conversation at a time. On each episode, I'll be joined by a student co-host. We'll be interviewing amazing people from across the industry to learn about how they got started in their career and what it is that they do. Let's dive in to find out the secrets to their success. Wow, Tyarna's energy was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, she loves what she's doing, doesn't she? I thought it was so interesting to hear about someone working in social media, because I'm guessing for you that's something that is an appealing career option.
It is interesting. I'm on it all the time. So
Yeah.
to have a job you like and you're on all the time and you know how to use it is quite fun.
Yeah, I think some people think, I can't believe that's work, but it
Yeah.
is. It's a job, and as she really eloquently talked about bringing value to a company,
Yeah.
and I think she really is bringing value here to the drum, which is amazing. What was your kind of biggest takeaway?
Well, the fact that she went to university, studied something completely different to what she's doing now, but it still helped her.
Yeah.
So it shows that it's not a waste if you think it is.
I don't think there is ever a waste. As long as you can take something away from it, you're always growing in some way or another. And actually, sometimes when you're closing doors, that's a good thing, because you go, do you know what? I now know I don't want to do that, but I would never have known that unless I tried it. So whether that's maybe not a whole university course, but getting that experience, you start to be able to close doors, and that is as good as opening doors, because you're starting to know yourself. So wow, I think our listeners are in for a fun episode, aren't they? So
definitely.
Over to you guys. I hope you enjoy.
Hi, my name is Tyarna and I'm taking you behind the future.
Welcome to another episode of Behind the Future. We're here at the Drum Labs in Shoreditch, and I have got the fantastic Jessica here with me to host. Tell us a bit about yourself, Jessica.
So I'm 17 and I'm studying media, business economics, and I'm hoping for a career in the digital industry, and I'm hoping this will help me.
I've got a feeling it might. So we've got an amazing guest with us today, Tyarna from the Drum. Tyarna, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, so as you said, my name is Tyarna and I lead the social media here at the Drum. A little bit about the Drum. We are a marketing publication, so we share the latest stories on marketing and brand and all the exciting things in media and digital. So yeah.
Amazing. And I'm a big fan of the Drum. Like, I think anyone that works in marketing is. So it's really exciting that students are going to get to hear more about what the Drum is and can start their obsession. So first question, Jessica, over to you.
So what does your day-to-day role look like?
So in my day-to-day role, leading social media, it involves a lot of different things. Firstly, it involves content ideation. So this is coming up with strategy and innovative ideas in the way that we can communicate the messages that we want to tell our audience. So that's one section, would be the ideas and just putting that all together. We've also got the content creation. So that's creating the content, whether it be in the form of video or in the form of graphics or photography. We've also got the posting aspect. So as I said, leading social media channels. I'm sure everyone knows the popular social media channels. The Drum are on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, X, Threads, pretty much all of the sites that you can think of. So we've also got the posting element there. And then I also do a few things on the site. So I've kind of co-wrote some articles about, latest trends in marketing and whatnot with some of my colleagues. So it also involves that sometimes, and writing on the weekly newsletter, which also covers the latest in brand and marketing and social media, of course.
A lot. You do a lot, don't you? What's your favourite bit?
I don't know. That's hard. I do kind of love it all. I love the idea that I can, take something from a very early idea and execute it and see it come to life. So I think, segmenting one part of it would be hard for me, but I love it all. I love the creativity. That's the best part.
That's good though, isn't it? And do you get to look at the data at all? So do you then also look at how well things perform and use that to inform what you do next?
Yeah. So that's another part of the role, which I forgot to mention. I do look at the data. So looking at how posts performed, whether it's performed better than another post, looking at engagement, looking at all forms of analytics to, inform what is going well, what do our audience like, what can we do better next time. So yes.
But you said you don't have a favourite thing. Is there anything that you don't like? You just don't like doing?
Sorry, your boss isn't listening, I'm sure.
What don't I like doing?
Or anything challenging?
I think it can be challenging to communicate stories that are a lot more serious into a way that's exciting for social media, because people like to see, Nike have done this new campaign, and putting that on social media is quite straightforward. You grab the campaign, you think of an exciting way to communicate, and you put it out. But if we've got, very in-depth research that we're trying to communicate to our social media audience, that can be difficult because you've got to make it exciting. And as you know, social media, it's quick, it's fast. People are on their sofa scrolling. So you want to make that information eye-catching and to the point. So it can be difficult to do that with topics that are a lot more serious.
Yeah. And one that comes to mind is like you've got changes at the moment in data privacy and things like that, which actually is really important that marketers know about, and because marketers handle a lot of data and personal information. But it's not the most fun topic, is it?
Yeah, that can be complex.
So I get why the campaigns are much more fun. So amazing. And how did you get here? How did you end up working at the Drum?
So I guess I can kind of take you on a journey. Not sure if that
we
were going to go there anyway. So I'll just start off. How back are we going?
Wherever you feel is a good starting point for the story.
Let's go to A-levels. I think that's an easy starting point. So for my A-levels, I initially did 4 A-levels. And then that was kind of the procedure that you had to do to drop one in the final year. So I followed that format. I did geography, sociology, psychology, fine art, and
that
4?
That's 4.
That was 4. Okay.
That sounds like enough.
Up until AS, then I dropped art and continued with the other 3. After that, I went on to university. So I studied at the University of Warwick for 3 years, and I did psychology. It was a lot more maths and science than I had anticipated, but I still, took it in my stride, finished there. After that, I worked at a youth charity for quite a long time, where I did social media marketing as a whole. So it was also very technical.
Okay.
So it was like technical forms of marketing and also social media. After staying there for a while, as I had said, I then wanted my next challenge, and I started my application process and, found the Drum. I have a real passion for marketing outside of work and whatnot. So I wanted to do something that would allow me to, use that passion and whatnot. So when I stumbled across the Drum and, found out they were hiring, went in, and rest is history.
When did you know that you wanted to do marketing?
Right. So it's funny. Okay. As I said, I went to university to study psychology. So for as long as I could think of, I wanted to be a psychiatrist. So I wanted to specifically help adolescents with their mental health and whatnot. And I still do have a heart for that cause. But when I had finished university, I realized that on my day-to-day job, I didn't want to be a psychiatrist. And from there, I kind of had to start brainstorming, like, what do I like? What do I enjoy? If I'm not going to do psychiatry, what am I going to do? So I remember one day sitting down and making a list of all the things I enjoy. So it was the most random things, like organizing, writing, TV, just anything. And then I went on to Google and I kind of, typed in these different activities and looked for roles that might, go well with these activities. And then I stumbled across marketing, which I had kind of known about loosely before. And I said to myself, I'm either going to go down the marketing route because that fits the activities and the interests that I've listed, or I'm going to go down the journalism route. Funny because I'm now doing both. So I had decided on the marketing route, and that's what led me to the charity job that I spoke about before.
Amazing.
That's quite interesting to hear, because I know it is really hard to decide what you want to do, and then people get scared they're going to uni, study the wrong thing, but it does help, I guess. I think
my story kind of speaks to the idea that you don't need to know exactly what you want to do.
Yeah.
You can change your mind. Even if you go to university and you study drama, there's so many transferable skills from what you get from a degree that you can kind of, you know, pivot into almost anything, unless it's a, you know, you know, you want to be a doctor and you want to be a surgeon. Of course, you can't then, you know, study dance and then,
we
want
don't
to be a
just pick that
doctor. But for most fields, I'd say there's so much flexibility in studying something and then, you know, moving on to another field. So yeah, my story is kind of one of those.
Yeah, definitely. And did you get any work experience in marketing before you got the job, or did you just dive straight into the job in marketing?
No, I didn't get specific work experience, but within like my circle, I had a lot of people who run their own businesses and stuff like that. So I've always kind of been around marketers and entrepreneurs and PR people. So I had an understanding of it, but it wasn't like a direct work experience, like 2 weeks on the job. No.
But you know what, that's brilliant, because I think sometimes we don't realize that we're getting work experience all the time just by conversations, whether it's your friends, your parents' friends, someone you've met, someone that goes to a club that you go to that does something. There's so many places we can start to learn and kind of fill in the color into the picture of, oh, that sounds interesting, or oh, I don't like the sound of that. And because it is like, it's so hard to sit there and know what do you want to do for the rest of your life. And yes, you can make changes and change direction, but knowing where to start is really tricky sometimes.
Yeah.
Really tricky.
I guess it's a bit scary as well. You don't want to do something for 5 years and feel like you've wasted it.
I think the thing is, though, to try and avoid that feeling of waste is that you're always getting something.
Yeah.
Everything helps you grow.
100%.
And actually, I think we've talked about this before on the podcast, the idea that you don't always realize at school the skills that you're gaining. You're focused on subjects, so it's I'm good at geography, or I'm good at psychology, or I'm doing well in these subjects, but you don't necessarily realize that, do you know, I'm the one that always leads the project, and actually I'm the one that's happy to go and stand in front of the class and talk, and realizing that that's a real skill that could start to give you ideas about the type of career that might suit you, that is nothing to do whether it was geography you were talking about or history, or it could be anything. So I think trying to start to understand what your skills are and what you enjoy doing is really powerful.
Yeah. Have you experienced anything that has made you who you are now in your career?
Something that sticks out was transitioning from my first after university job to my second. So pivoting out of that into what I wanted to do next and having to go through the job process, which you know, isn't always fun. I think most people would tell you, going through the interview process, you know, sometimes hearing no, sometimes hearing, oh, we love you, but yeah, we've gone for another person. And that sort of thing. I found that very hard to navigate, and to remain headstrong within that is something that's very difficult. But I found myself within that process kind of just, you know, building myself, building my faith, and being hopeful that I would get something eventually and, you know, get what was right for me. So I'd say that was something that was a turning point for me, because it made me resilient and it made me go after what I really wanted and being perseverant to get there.
Definitely. Have you got any tips from that process that kind of really helped you when you were looking for a role? And because it is tough, isn't it, when you hear the knockbacks, and so often, and I can imagine it already, you've got such a lovely personality. I can imagine every interview they went to, the people were thinking, oh, she feels brilliant, but just sometimes someone's going to pip you on that they've got maybe a tiny bit more experience, and so you do end up hearing, we loved you, but yeah, have you got any tips that would help with someone that's going to start on that journey soon?
I would say to aid your application, try and put together, specifically for marketing roles, try and put together a creative portfolio. So in that, you're putting everything that you've done outside of like normal work experience or uni, or just any side project that you have that shows off your creativity, that shows off your skills. And even if you haven't got any of those things to show for yet, what you can do is create hypothetical portfolios. So let's just say there's a beauty brand you're dying to work for. Go on their site, look at maybe a new product that they have, and put together a deck that says, like, if I was on this team, what would I do to promote this new lipstick? And, maybe go on Canva, create a graphic. This is how I do the graphics, create some captions, think of some ideas, maybe some influencers that you'd get on board. And when interviewers see this, they see this initiative. So though you might not have the experience there laid out for this specific role, you're showing all the skills that you can offer. And I think also what that process taught me is that jobs are looking for people who can add value. So by doing a creative portfolio and showing your skill set, you're showing how you can add value. You're not just telling. Yeah. So I would say that that's a good tip for marketing roles specifically, or creative roles.
Love that.
For all the latest marketing and brand news, follow the Drum Mag on Instagram.
You mentioned Canva. What actually is that? What does it do?
So Canva is a graphic design tool. So marketers every day are using Canva. Marketers are in love with Canva. You can create all forms of graphics on there. So not just for work, people create birthday invitations and whatnot on there. So it's just a graphic design tool, but it's so easy to use because they have a number of templates. So literally, if you went onto Canva and wrote marketing portfolio, you'd find some templates, and then you can replace the information and put information that's relevant to what you're doing. So yeah, to answer your question, it's literally just a graphic design tool that's easy to use and it's easily accessible.
And do you know what? It's brilliant because it's really democratized being able to be creative, because previously it would have always been things like Photoshop that were really great tools, but not very easy to use unless you were a graphic designer. And then you'd need the license for it, which was always very expensive. Whereas actually Canva you can use for free. There are things that are better when you pay for the pro version, but actually the pro version is still quite cheap as well. Yeah. But it's really made it accessible that literally, I mean, I am not a creative, but I have definitely made some birthday invites and whatnot on Canva. And I can go in and edit things that we've created. So like internally we'll make templates that then means that anyone can go and edit them. So it's definitely a good tool to check out, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely have a look at Canva.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that. What excites you the most about the future of the industry? Obviously, being at the Drum, you're at the forefront of hearing what's happening and what cool campaigns are people doing. Like, what excites you for what's coming next?
I think what excites me most about the future of the industry is how brands are pushing creative boundaries. I think for a long time in the marketing kind of digital space, there's been a lot of rules and a lot of things that brands are scared to do, and I feel like they're pushing back that fear right now and they're just going for it. Brands are doing some of the silliest, wackiest stuff and it's working, and they're getting, great reception and response for that. You've got brands like Currys who are, typically a tech brand that sell laptops and fridges, but you've seen them do some really funny things on social, and their engagement is just through the roof. So I'm excited to see how brands will move this forward, continuing to be, fun and innovative and creative and be different and do things that are different to what we've always seen.
Where do you think AI is going to play into that? Because I guess that's all about brands starting to show personality more so. But actually the worry could be that AI might take some of that away if we're being less human because we're letting the robots do their thing. So yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so I think the future of AI it's controversial. I mean, even the present use of AI is quite controversial, but I do think that it can be advantageous to this industry. I think as long as AI is not completely relied on and it's used to supplement things and it's used to kind of generate, initial stage ideas and whatnot, I think it could be really advantageous in that way. The only worry I would have is if there's a huge reliance on AI to do everything, because, AI cannot meet the human touch. It just can't. So I think as long as we're staying true to, having humans and, you know, people still working on campaigns and just using AI to supplement, I think that, yeah, that's a great match.
Definitely. And does your psychology background come into how you create posts and messaging? Do you get to use that day to day?
Yes, I believe it does. And that's why I was saying earlier that I think young people can be so worried that if I study the wrong thing, I can never do this. Or if I discover later on that I want to do this, but I did this at uni, or I did this in A levels and whatnot, I won't be able to do. That's not true. The skills are so transferable. For myself, who studied psychology, as I said earlier, it was heavily maths and, you know, heavily science based. But even in that, I've been able to take some of the stuff I learned into my current role. So take the example of some of the mathsy stuff that I did. I now have to look at data and, you know, analyze this data and make conclusions from this data. That's something I did in my psychology degree. So I think that definitely does inform how I go about things. And even as you're saying, in terms of content creation, I think it does also, because having studied how humans work and learning about, you know, the ways to catch attention and stuff like that, it's definitely informed how I go about making posts. For example, I'm, you know, very specific about hooks when I write captions and stuff like that. I make sure that the first thing that the people are seeing is something that will really just, you know, trigger something and make people want to interact with the post. So yeah, definitely.
Good. What's best day at work you've had so far? Like, what stands out as like this was like the best I've had?
Oh wow.
I know it's a big question.
Okay. No, I think it's a nice question, because it's made me reflect and be grateful, because I've had many good days.
Good.
Like, so many are coming to my mind. Can I kind of mix a few days?
You can. You there's no rules here.
Okay. So I think the perfect day for me would start with matcha. So a day where I've had a good matcha.
Nice.
I've come into work and there's a new campaign that's exciting, it's fun, and I'm genuinely, you know, interested in it. That makes a great day. So I've had days like that where I've seen just brands come up with something that's just awesome, and I'll talk to my colleagues about it and say, oh, you know, have you seen what this new brand has done, what, you know, Adidas have brought out, or whoever it may be. And then I'm able to, as I said earlier, when the campaign is exciting or whatnot, it's easy for me to then communicate that on social media and, you know, get a response from our audience and whatnot. So a good day would definitely involve that. Also, I didn't address it earlier, but in some of my role as well, it involves events. So the Drum host numerous events throughout the year, really exciting marketing events. Some of them are around the predictions of marketing, or some of them are about B2B, which business to business, is what that stands for. Just realized the podcast that I'm on, I should explain these things.
Yeah, no, you're all good. You're all good.
So yeah, we also do events. So when we have events, I do the event coverage, so taking pictures and videos and whatnot. So yeah, I would add that into a really good day. We've had like a drum event, and you know, there's been so many great insights on the industry and whatnot, and I've been able to capture that in an exciting, fun way. And then I'd say a really good day would probably end with maybe going to another event. So there's a lot of industry events that I go to and take, you know, like press coverage of and stuff like that. I've been to some really cool ones. For example, like Spotify, they did this supper one time and it was amazing. It was at Frameless, which is in London. So it's an immersive experience. And they were basically doing a merger between food and music. So they did something where it took you through all parts of your day, and they kind of matched that up with the food that you were eating. So they kind of started off with breakfast foods, and the place was all immersive, and it was like a you know, morning time backdrop. It was awesome. And then they took you to lunch, and then they took you to dinner, and they also had music infused. It was very cool. So adding something like that, adding an event to the day would be, I think that would kind of encompass
I love that. I love that. I was at your predictions event this year, actually, and it was amazing. It was such a buzz in the room for all the information that's being shared and getting to hear kind of what the predictions are. And actually, it was starting to see some of those come true already, which is always good. Marketers love a prediction, don't
They
we?
do.
We love to think about what's going to happen
coming
and then, see what actually does happen.
Do you have any advice for students?
Do I have any advice for students? Yes. I kind of spoke earlier about a time in my career journey where I began brainstorming everything that I found interesting and then looked for roles that kind of match those interests. I would definitely advise students everywhere to do that. So whether you've been the person that's always wanted to help your mum out with the cooking, or you've been a person that's always just been in your room writing random things or writing poetry, or you've been the person that likes to put together social events, or someone who likes to make TikToks for fun, or whatever it is, start to write those things down. And what you'll realize is that there are so many jobs out there that meet your interests. Things that you think there's no way I can get paid to do this. Trust me, you can probably get paid to do it. Like, I think when we think of careers and we think of job titles, we think of things like, being a journalist or being a lawyer or being a pharmacist. But within that, there's so much that is beyond just being those things. You can find intersections. So, for example, if you like healthcare, but you don't want to be a doctor, but you like healthcare, you like medicines, you like all of these kinds of things, you can find a role within digital that speaks to that health interest without having to be a doctor. So you could run the social media pages for a pharmacy, or, you could find some sort of digital role, do SEO, which is search engine optimization, which is a form of marketing. You could do something like that for a pharmaceutical company, or the options are kind of endless. So any interest that you have, look for ways that they might intersect with digital roles or marketing roles or PR roles, because your interests definitely are found in some sort of job. So that's kind of my advice. My advice would be, write down everything that's always interested you and do as much research as you can to find out what job roles there are, because there's so many, and you'll find something you like.
How would I start with the research? So I've got my qualities and skills. How would I then go from there?
Okay, so we spoke about AI earlier. So I would say, personally, in this case, I think AI would be good use. Write down your list, go onto AI, go into chat GPT. It's actually GPT. Not
I know, it's
BT.
a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it?
I would go onto there and I would say, these are the things that interest me. These are the things I find enjoyable. I'm looking for every possible job role in the world that could meet these interests. And I'm sure you'd get a very long list of things that you could do.
Yeah.
So
I did think that at the time, because you said when you were doing it, you had to use Google, and actually that was probably quite a slow process. It's kind of Google search after Google search after Google, and like trying to refine it down. But actually, in the world where we do have ChatGPT, that is a perfect use for it to get some suggestions. And how important has network been to you as you've been kind of growing through your career in finding connections, and whether that's using LinkedIn to stay in touch with people? Has that started to become something important?
Yes, I think networking is really important. And I think what people don't realize about networking is you don't always see the payoff straight away. So you might go to an event and speak to 10 people, and maybe you won't speak to those people again for another 2 years. But in 2 years' time, you might think, oh, I want to do something related to animation. I remember I met this one lady 2 years ago at this event. I remember her name was whatever it was. Try and find her on LinkedIn. Hey, I met you 2 years ago. Any advice you can give me, any tips you could give me, any opportunities you know of? So I would say networking is very key. And not to say that networking is always about, what you can gain from it. Sometimes you can actually help other people. So you can advise someone or point someone to an opportunity or signpost them to something that you think would be good for them. So I would say networking is very, very key. And I would always encourage someone to network.
Definitely. You can find opportunities. And I think to your point as well, of not always looking to what you can get, the more you can help people, the more you will stand out in their memory. So if you can connect to great people, like you've met someone at an event, or, oh, you should know this person, I'll do a little intro. You guys find time for a coffee. The amount of coffees that happen, like I don't even drink coffee, but the amount of coffees I have with people, I'm a tea drinker, but I always say, oh, should we have a coffee? I'm not drinking coffee there, but you can do it virtually. Like you don't have to meet these people in person, but the amount of things that I can think of in my career that have come from those just little chats and little connections. But the more you help others, everything gets paid back eventually. Like it is, you give it out into the universe and it will come back to you. I love it. I love it. Have you got any other questions, or have we pulled everything we can out?
I think that's answered all my questions.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting because I think also you're doing a role that actually, especially thinking of kind of 17, 18-year-olds at this point, working in social media is probably attractive to a lot of 17, 18-year-olds and all years around that probably, because they're so used to it and so interested in what they're already creating and seeing happen. So it's lovely to kind of unpick what you do, how you do it, how you got here. So thank you so much for joining us. It's been really, really good.
Thank you.
I know there'll be lots of people learning lessons from what we've had today. So thank you so much. And where can people follow you? Is it on LinkedIn or?
So you can follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me, send me a message if you need any, more advice and tips or whatnot. I'd be happy to help. So my username is TYARNA space AGYEKUM.
Amazing. And we will link that in the show notes as well, because it will be lovely if you go and follow Tyarna. So thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you on a future episode. That concludes another brilliant episode of Behind the Future. Thank you so much for listening. You can listen back to other episodes on YouTube or your podcast platform of choice. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, as that will help us to grow this podcast, ensuring we can get the best guests on here for you to learn from. You can also follow us on socials, linked in the show notes for exclusive content. See you on the next episode.